Today we are going to discuss about the system landscape of SAP. So this was the question in our last session, that what is the SAP's inbuilt database. So we had already discussed this part in that particular session only. So the answer would be HANA. HANA is high performance analytic appliance. It is the inbuilt SAP database. Okay, so these are the topics that we are going to cover today: the development system, the quality assurance system, the product system, the production system, and the transport management. Okay, let's start with our main content. Okay, let's start with the SAP system landscape. So, to define it, we can say that it is an structured arrangement of the system which is used to manage the development and the testing and the real-time operation in the production system. So each configuration or the change begins in the development system and goes through the testing and then finally land up in the production system. SAP is having three system landscape, three system landscape, and these systems are DEV, QAS, QAS, and PRD. So what is this? This is development system. This is quality assurance system, which is also known as the testing system. And final one is the production system. So we are going to discuss each one of these one by one. Okay. So we will be firstly starting with the development system. So DEV. So DEV is nothing but a development system or the primary system where the change begins or the customization begins. So this system is used for the customization, and this system is used for any configuration, and the same system is used for coding, like a web language is used in SAP for the coding part. And another thing about the development system is you rarely have any transactional data. Transactional data. So the reason is this system is rarely refreshed. The data of the production is hardly taken into the system because we don't want to do like much testing in the development system as compared to the test system of the production. So it might refreshed like biannually or yearly, but not very often. Okay, let's continue with the our next system, which is QAS, also known as the testing system. So this system is majorly used for the validation, which is also known as the testing. Okay, let's suppose you made some changes or you did some customization in the standard code of SAP, and that change you moved into the test system. Now you have to check if it is working as per your expectation or as per the requirement. So this part would be validated or tested in the quality assurance system. Okay, so the testing can be the unit testing, which you actually try to check from your end. The unit testing is simply the testing the string or a part of complete process. And then we are having user UAT, which is also known as user acceptance user acceptance testing. So where do we require this testing? This testing is required from the user. Okay, user actually does this testing and validate the changes and confirm us back with the relevant screenshot, and then we move ahead with the movement of changes in the production system if those changes are valid and working as per the requirement or as per the expectation. And unlike development system, this system actually gets refreshed periodically. So what does this mean? The data of the production system, okay, the data from the production system get copied into the testing system. So the reason is we, for example, we are having any issue in the production system and we want to do the replication or create the same scenario in the test system, then we would need the same data in the quality assurance system. So that's why the system gets refreshed periodically. In the refresh, the data from the production gets copied into the quality system or the test system. Okay, let's continue with the PRD, which is production system. This is the production system. So what is the production system? Production system is the live system where the postings are done in the real time, and apart from that having a strict control on the change part. Okay, you cannot directly change each and everything in the production system, so there is a strict control. If you are doing any of the change in the production system, it might have the unintended consequences. There might be a immediate risk. Apart from that, we are having limited access also, or we can say authorization. Okay, so the authorization is also limited. The authorization is given as per the rules. Even the consultant would be having authorization of all the functionality in the production system to protect the system from the unintended changes or the postings. Okay, so whatever the change you are making in the development system, ideally it will go through the test system where the validation would be done, and then finally the change would be moved into production system where the daily operation runs. Okay, so this is how our landscape works, and now we need to understand how the movement of the change or the configuration is managed. So we are having for this a concept called mm, we are having the concept called transport management. So what happens in this transport management is it actually controls the change movement across system landscape. Means movement across these three systems. Okay, and whenever you are making configurational change, there would be a generation of something which is called transport request. So this is the request which is generated once you make any of the configurational change, and this transport request is actually acts like a container which holds your change. So there are two important actually T codes which are used to manage or release the transport request. So these are the transaction code. We will be discussing in a separate session in detail about the T codes. Okay, the T codes are SC09 and SC010. So these two T codes are used to manage or monitor the release of the transport request. For example, if you are making any change, that change you will be moving in the next system using the transport request. Before moving it, you have to release it. Okay, and the release part is done using the T code SE09 and SE10. Okay, and there is important thing in this, the request status. Transport request status. So it is of majorly two types, modifiable and another is released. So before understanding what is modifiable and what is released, let's take a scenario. In the single system, like the test system or the development system, you might have the multiple clients. Okay, or in simple language, we can say we can have the multiple system within the system. Okay, like we are having two system of this test system, like system 1 and the system 2. Okay, within this system. Okay, to make any of the movement of the change within the systems or the client, okay, is done using the copy part. Okay, there is no need to release the transport request. This modifiable is applicable. For example, there is a test system, so any of the test system can have the multiple client, or in a simple language you can say the multiple subsystems. Similarly, we can have the same in the development and in the production also. So what happens once you are doing the movement of the changes within the same system? Okay, for example, you are having in the test system system ABC and the second system is XYZ. Let's take ABC. The first system is ABC and the second system is XYZ, and they both are in test system. So you did some changes in the product in the development system, and then you moved the changes in the test system. You did the unit testing and you want the user acceptance testing in this XYZ system. So for that you need to move the change from ABC to XYZ. Once you move the change from ABC to XYZ, then the this transport request would be modifiable. Its status would be modifiable. It simply means that you can make any of the changes, those would be reflected in the XYZ. And while your status is in the released state, it simply means that while you are transferring or making the movement of the change across system. Across system means you are making the change from the development to test to the production system. In that case, you have to release the transport request. And the difference here is once you move the change, okay, from the development to the test system, then your RT is released. Okay, because this is the prerequisite that you have to release the RT if you want to move the changes across the systems. Once it is released, you cannot modify, you cannot make any change in the target system using this transport request. You will have to roll it back if you want any change. So in this modifiable, we use the T code as double C 1N to copy the changes from one client to another client. Okay, so these are called the client. For example, let's take ABC as 100 and XYZ as 110. Okay, so you are, while moving these changes from ABC to XYZ, you can simply copy using this T code as double C1, and you made the some changes in ABC using this T code. You can change or copy those changes in the XYZ system. But while you are moving the changes across system from the development to test system, test to the production, you cannot make any of the changes in the target system, because once you released it, you have to roll it back if you want any of the change. Okay, let's jump to our question section. So the first question is, can we make any change directly in production system? So the answer technically is yes, but it is highly discourageable to make any change in the production directly because it can have the immediate consequences. There might be the data consistency issue if you do the change directly. If there is a need, you have to make the changes mostly using the firefighter IDs and with the appropriate approvals from the seniors. Okay. And the second question is, I want you to write the answer in the comment section. Like, what are the two types of transport request? Okay, so basically the transport request are of two types. So you have to name those two types.